To the new movie Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm sure it's been viral. It's gone viral. I've seen it everywhere. Even NSYNC renamed their official video. It says NSYNC bye bye bye, and in parentheses, official video from Deadpool and Wolverine. So if you haven't seen the movie, I don't know what you're waiting for. I saw it. I'm not gonna say how. I do have the ability to see them bootleg, but for everybody that grew up with the Marvel, with the reading comic books, this is as accurate as you could ever get when it comes to comic books transitioning into the big screen. I would say the fighting was the best part. I just want to give my quick review on it, try not to spoil too much. It was definitely something else. I think they say they dropped the F-bomb over 100 times in it. It didn't seem like it was that much, but apparently it was 118 times. So they get really creative with the covers. I like this one because obviously it looks like Back to the Future, and it's true what's going on there. So if you've seen the Loki and know about the TVA, those are the portals that they use to go into other dimensions, and that's what goes on here. But I was really surprised with the cameos, people that I would have never thought I would ever see again in the big screen. And the fight scenes were pretty epic. I actually like the villain, the bald chick, Cassandra Nova. She is Professor X's evil twin. And they don't specify how she got there to the void, to the end of time. But she must have been cast away. I think when she was in the womb, I think she tried to kill Professor X in the womb when they were twins. But apparently Professor X didn't know about her. So there's that. But my view on the movie would be kind of biased because obviously, you know, this is pretty much my imagination brought to life as a kid. And, you know, you get all the callback, you get all the Easter eggs. And I don't know how somebody that doesn't know the history, that didn't grow up as a kid watching cartoons and comics and having action figures of these superheroes, I don't know how well they would take the movie, but it seems to be pretty unanimous on that the movie is great. It's hilarious. I didn't think Deadpool could make me laugh as much after seeing the first two, but this one is pretty funny. So what I liked about this one too is that it was connected to the TVA, which is from Loki. And from this on, I want to transition on to what happened with Kang Dynasty and going a different direction, and Robert Downey Jr. back in the MCU as a villain in Doctor Doom. So in case anyone hasn't seen Loki season 1 or 2, at the end of the last episode of season 1, they meet the one who remains at the end of time. Now they don't call him Kang or Kang the Conqueror, but that was his first role as that supervillain, played by Jonathan Majors. He was the one who remains.
This is wild. The two of you, same person. I mean, it's a little unnatural, but wow. Wild.
He who remains.
He who remains. She still calling me that? Creepy. Right. I like it. Oh. Come on.
A man.
Flesh and blood. Don't tell me I'm a disappointment.
No. Just a little bit easier to kill.
So that he remained because he put an end to all his variants that were causing havoc in other timelines, so they were able to have just one timeline, which is like our life, the sacred timeline, the one where Infinity War and Endgame take place. So anyway, not to get too nerdy, I think too late for that, right? I already got too nerdy into this, but so he was the one that was gonna be like the next major villain in the MCU. You know, it would be pretty hard to fill in the shoes of Thanos. But Kang, the thing about Kang is that there's a lot of versions of himself. He's a time traveler. And there's like hundreds of versions of himself, and they conquer worlds. So what the one who remains tells Sylvie, if she kills him, then nothing's going to stop all his other variants from coming to invade all the universe, the multiverse. She doesn't listen, she kills them, so it begins. Then at the end of Ant-Man 3 Quantum Mania, you see the Council of Kangs getting together to try to fight or to discuss, because they killed the Kang in Ant-Man 3. So I think that was really a good thing of that movie, seeing Kang's power. Initially, when they cast this actor, I was not in favor of it. In a way, it seemed a bit like a DEI choosing. They chose him, to be diverse. You see that a lot right now, them going to having minorities. They're having minorities play these roles a lot more now, especially Disney. So when I saw that they gave it to Jonathan Majors, I didn't know too much about him. But after seeing him act, I was completely sold on this guy. So the version that he played at the end of Loki season 1, he was like this funny goofy guy. In Quantumania, he's the serious version. He's like a killer, pretty much. And then in season 2 of Loki, he's the version of Victor Timely, which is like a mild-mannered, kind of quiet guy. And he has like a stutter. It's kind of funny. So he acts all those parts pretty good. So you would need an actor that could cover a wide range of different types of people if you're going to play different versions of yourself. What happened with Kang, though, how it started going, they went away from it because he was found. Let me read this. In December, Majors was found guilty on 2 misdemeanor, not felonies, 2 misdemeanor charges in a domestic violence case, assault in the 3rd degree and harassment in the 2nd degree to an incident or a girlfriend that took place. I haven't seen the video. Apparently she was the one chasing him, and he kind of defended himself, but he's a big dude. He's a pretty strong guy. Obviously he overdid it. I'm not excusing him, but when the video shows you're trying to get away and the trouble follows you, that kind of changes things if there's that kind of proof. But what they don't say is that he was found not guilty of intentional assault in the 3rd degree and aggravated harassment in the 2nd degree. So they didn't believe he needed jail time. He got let me see, the guilty verdict. It says within 10 minutes, Marvel and Disney dropped him. I get that, but here's where I have an issue with this. Y'all remember James Gunn, the guy who directed Guardians of the Galaxy? It was a hit movie. It was different. Everybody loves Guardians of the Galaxy, including me. And now he was given the keys to the DC cinematic universe, or the DCU now. What many don't remember is that they dropped him. They fired him. They fired him because there was tweets of him that resurfaced from the past when he was younger, very related to pedophilia. He was joking, and I saw those tweets, and I was grossed out. It was disgusting. He was joking around pretty much about doing sexual acts with little boys. I don't know if it gets worse. I don't know if it gets worse than that. I mean, obviously committing the acts, but when you have tweets like that, there's not much that needs to be said about that. But there were several, and they were like jokes, but they were all disgusting, and they were all talking about doing sexual acts with little boys and kids. So he got fired, he got dropped. And I remember thinking at the time, they're just doing the right thing, and when everybody forgets, in a year or two, they're going to rehire him. Sure enough, they brought him back, and he directed, I think, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And at the same time, he was hired by DC to be the head, he's pretty much the Kevin Feige now of DC. And that's why I have an issue with that. I mean, it's kind of hard to compare pedophilia tweets of pedophilia to assaulting your girlfriend. But, Jonathan Majors, Kang, the guy who was playing Kang the Conqueror, it wasn't a felony. It was a misdemeanor. So I was holding on hope that they were just going to do the right thing and be like, oh, we have to drop this guy because he assaulted somebody. And I thought they were going to drop him and eventually get him back. But then after seeing what they did at the end of Loki season 2, that Loki was going to be the one to hold the timelines together now, and the TVA was going to take care of Kang. And I was like, oh man, I hope not. And then we see the reveal of Doctor Doom. The interesting thing about Kang, which would have mixed in good now that the Fantastic Four is coming out, it turns out that Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, is related to Kang. They have the same father. Kang's real name is Nathaniel Richards. Mr. Fantastic's real name is Reed Richards. So there's a connection there. There's a lot of ways they could have gone about that. There's a lot of versions of Kang the Conqueror. I'll see if I play the clip at the end of Quantumania. I think not a lot of people saw that. But I was excited because I was completely sold on this actor because he could act. He could act. I was not in favor when they cast him for this role at first, but after seeing him in Loki and in Quantumania, I was like, okay, we have something good here. So I was excited to see the invasion of Kang and how they were going to fight all these variants of Kang. And then we get the Doctor Doom thing, which is a great villain, but now who's going to play Doctor Doom? I didn't really care because he's hiding behind a mask, the man in the iron mask. But then when they reveal who it was, man, let me get into that. So before I get into the Robert Downey Jr. as Kang, or just give my last opinion on that, I wanted to play the clip of Jonathan Majors being asked how he felt about being replaced as the new villain for the MCU. And, well, let me play the clip. And let me start it from the beginning.
I mean, it was announced that Robert Downey Jr. was, being brought back from Marvel to play Doctor Doom. I mean, it looks like he's replacing your villain, Kang. I mean, are you hurt with the new direction that, Marvel is, going?
Yeah, heartbroken.
You are?
Yeah, of course. Come on. Yeah, of course. I love him. I love Kang. Me too.
I mean,
Doctor Doom is wicked, though.
Yeah, it is good. It's going to be good. I mean, both Robert Downey Jr. and Ezra Miller have had, a history of trouble with, the law and getting arrested for felonies. I mean, you only had a misdemeanor. Do you feel like it's unfair that, you're not being given the same opportunities as them?
Damn. I think it's fair that Mr. Downey is being and has been greeted with patience and curiosity and love, and that Mr. Miller's gotten the same treatment, and that they're being allowed to work their art and be creative at that level, you know. It's not, nah, I'm not really, I didn't really get that.
Hey Jonathan, how are you?
So you heard it from him right there. He didn't feel like he got that same treatment as Robert Downey Jr. and Ezra Miller, both who were in trouble with the law. And the reporter kind of baited him into that by asking him, maybe he didn't get the same treatment, kind of trying to imply it's a racial thing. I don't think that decision for him getting dropped by Disney was because of his race, but I do think the justice system that was behind him kind of went after him, because there's been countless times of domestic disputes, and especially this one which showed the video of his girlfriend chasing him, and and it wasn't a felony, it was a couple of misdemeanors. But Robert Downey Jr.'s was, I believe, about drugs. So it's kind of apples to oranges. He didn't assault somebody. Ezra Miller, I forgot what his charges were. I would have to look that up. And but yeah, as you can see right there, you hear from him. He's heartbroken over the fact of him getting replaced in the MCU. He loved that character, like he said, and I was one of the fans, and I was one of the ones excited. And the Loki season being so good really got me excited into that character as well. Then seeing that he was found guilty of those misdemeanors, he was dropped. I think they could have waited and let some time pass, since those movies aren't going to come out, or they haven't even started filming yet anytime soon. I think they could have died down and they could have continued with that. So now we get Robert Downey Jr. back in the MCU, not as Iron Man, but as the villain Doctor Doom. So when I first saw this, it blew up all over my feed. But my first instinct was like, what the hell? What? I was just confused. I was completely confused. Why? My first question was why? There's so many actors out there. I don't understand. I honestly don't understand. I know there's a lot of people that are in favor of it, in favor of him, just because it's Robert Downey Jr. and he's the one that solely, started the fame of the MCU. But it doesn't make sense to me, because we're used to seeing him as Tony Stark in the MCU. So now you're going to put the same actor in a completely different role in the same franchise, in the same timeline, with the same actors that were his friends or his teammates in the Avengers. So I really don't understand. I think it was a bit of not a desperation move, but they wanted to be sure they didn't drop the ball, and they felt they could be sure with him, because it's the one man that played Iron Man. It was Robert Downey Jr. So aside from that, I think there was a lot of other choices. I don't understand this one. Again, I don't know why he would want to come back to the same franchise as a completely different person. I don't know if that's ever been done. It's like someone in Star Wars, they cast, it's like they recast Samuel L. Jackson to play someone else. I don't know. It's just, I'm not a fan of that move at all. Especially the way Robert Downey Jr. came out. Like, he was so 100% convinced that everyone was gonna buy into this move. Like, I think people just cheered because they saw him. So the only thing that would make sense is that there is a storyline that Doctor Doom is actually a variant of Tony Stark. So if they were to somehow kind of mix that into the story, it would make sense. The other positive note is that obviously we know Doctor Doom wears a mask that he's showing, that he's holding right there. So Doctor Doom always has a mask on. So we don't have to see Tony Stark or see his little goatee, like looking like Tony Stark, but there has to be a point where he was in his human form, and that's the part that I don't know what they're gonna do. But apparently, the Doctor Doom version is like this God Emperor Doom, where he's powerful more than the average Doctor Doom. I just hope they don't use Robert Downey Jr.'s face. I hope he's able to change his voice, change the way he talks. I don't want to associate Robert Downey Jr. at all with Doctor Doom. I don't mind. He's never going to play Iron Man. They're going to keep his sacrifice at the top of the list. They're never going to do what they did with Wolverine and Logan's death, how they brought him back. Even though it's not the same one, that sacrifice still counts. So they could still he could still come back as Iron Man in the future, but from a different timeline. It won't be the same one. It won't change the fact that in the main timeline, in the sacred timeline, or Earth 616, which is supposed to be the closest thing to our Earth now, that Iron Man is gonna stay dead, pretty much. And they're working on getting Tom Cruise to play a variant of Iron Man, of Tony Stark. So, not a fan of this. They could have done a lot. They could have gone in so many different ways. I think they just wanted to be sure that they kept the fans in it. Everybody loves Robert Downey Jr. for what he's done in the MCU, all the MCU fans, but this didn't make any sense to me. Not a fan of it. Anything else I want to cover with Nerd Mania? No, pretty much I just wanted to end this little thing with a nice clip here. So just to finish this off, spoiler warning if you haven't seen Deadpool and Wolverine. Spoiler warning coming up ahead. Okay, enough of that. Hey, get out. So I just wanted to end it with that scene. So, I mean, what this video is going to get, 20, 30 views? I doubt any of you got it spoiled by this little video that I did. This nerd video that I decided to do. So my final score or rating on Deadpool and Wolverine is an 8.5 out of 10. And the reason is actually that scene. Wasn't a big fan of that scene because it was pointless. As I was saying, the parts that I didn't like about the movie was just pretty much that plot where they fight all the Deadpools. It was pointless. It was kind of pointless. Then at the end, the friend just comes along and then they let them go. So I don't know what. I get it was mainly for the action and for the Wolverine mask and all that, but it should have been more meaningful. And I really was not a fan of Dogpool and him seeing the dog. So I don't know if they forgot this, but there was 2 scenes in the movie where the dog runs to him with the music playing in slow motion and jumps to him. So they did that kind of in the beginning, and then a little bit towards the end before this whole scene where the dog comes to him again in slow motion and runs. I'm like, why are they kind of redoing that same scene? Like, it wasn't it. Seeing that stupid ugly dog, not once but twice, and twice in slow motion with the song playing. Like, what do they think the fans are going to be cheering seeing that dog again? So that alone took it down 0.5. Then that whole how they made it meaningless with the Deadpool, that was another 0.5. And then Cassandra Nova, the main villain, just going into the main timeline just to try to do that one thing. They didn't use her. They didn't use that villain to its fullest potential. So that's my take on Deadpool and Wolverine. I hope I didn't spoil it for you. If I did, too bad. That's been my nerd talk for the day. Till next time, peace out.